Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today in Raid Shadow Legends. Today is going to be a really fun video. We're going to go through every single faction in the game, pick out who I think is the best 1 or 2 legendary champions, and then pick out maybe an underrated champion or a champion that I just really love who you don't often see as maybe number 1 on all these tier lists. We've already done this with epic champions of every faction and rare champions of every faction. In case you missed those videos, you're curious to find out more about my favorite champions or my top tier champions in those rarities, I'll link them in the description below of this video. Feel free to check them out at the end. Hope this video finds you all doing well. By the way, I'm still hanging in there. I'm in Massachusetts, so things are still kind of bad, still kind of under quarantine and just using Raid Shadow Legends and YouTube videos and stuff like that to get through the day. I'm sure a lot of you guys are probably in the same boat. Been seeing a lot of your comments kind of, consuming media and content as a way to kind of remain somewhat sane throughout these kind of weird and uncertain times. So I just want to thank you guys for kind of joining me on this journey. And one final note too, before we jump into the list here with Bannerlords, is I got a comment a couple days ago on one of my videos asking, why don't I do like rant videos any more often on Raid Shadow Legends? I've done 1 or 2 in the past, but truthfully, like how I feel about it is this game needs a ton of work. There's a ton of problems in the game. There's a lot. I could get into all that stuff. That's not today's video, right? But at the end of the day, if I really didn't like it that much, I probably would just stop playing it or stop covering it, honestly. Like I said in the beginning of this, I use this game as kind of an escape mechanism, and I like the game. I like the art. I like the structure, the foundation of the game. Again, tons of problems in the game, yes, but I'm the type of person who I'm just gonna play and try to look at the bright side, continue to advocate for better changes, and if it never comes, I'm just gonna stop playing, but in the meantime, I'm gonna try to enjoy the time that I do spend on the game. So that's just my mentality. If you don't respect that, then, whatever, to agree to disagree, but that's just kind of how I approach things as a content creator. So starting out here in Bannerlords, guys, I think that the best champion is Raglan. She is just such a beast mode support, revives an ally with 75% HP and a full turn meter on a 2-turn cooldown. That's insane. And then she has the remove all debuffs from all allies, heals them, heals proportional to this champion's attack, which is interesting and unique as well. And then a 3-time hitter on the A1, fills a turn meter of a random ally by 15%. And I think that with this revival, there's like S tier revival and the defense of 33% aura in all battles. I think it's Raglan. I think the closest second place guy would be Septimus, because I just love abilities. You guys have been watching know that I love abilities based on enemy max HP, also ignores shield and block damage buffs. Septimus can put out an insane amount of damage with this A2. He also has a 30% chance of increasing the duration of all debuffs on the target by 1 turn. Damage inflicted by each attack increases by 30% if the enemy's current HP is over 50%. So Giant Killer is just an insane passive that synergizes very well with Holy Sword. One champion that I want to give this is not the underrated champion, but Lord Champ4, I just pulled him a while ago. He's not a great champion, but man, this aura, I didn't even realize that his aura was 50% in dungeons. 50% HP. That's pretty insane, but yeah, he's not that great of a champion. Sathalia, though, is a great champion, and she's the one that I really like and I really want here in the Bannerlords. She has you guys know me, I love turn meter. This is a 3-turn cooldown on the aggress ability. Has 75% chance, 100% chance of removing all buffs when booked from all enemies. Then decreases the turn meter of all enemies by 10% and fills the turn meter of all allies by 10%. Decreases the turn meter of all enemies by 20% and fills turn meter of allies by 20% if 5 or more total buffs were removed. I love that ability on a 3-turn too, cooldown. And then she removes all debuffs from a target ally, places a block debuff on them instead, and then heals by 75% of their max HP, heals other allies by 20% of their max HP, and fills the turn meter by 15% if the target is fully healed by this skill. Again, really good skill, and on a 2-turn cooldown when booked. 2-turn cooldown. It's a pretty good ability, considering she's pulling the block debuffs for 2 turns as well. So I really just like her kit, Sathalia. I think that she's a champion that not a lot of people talk about that much. I am a fan. Moving on here, we'll kind of pick up the pace a little bit here because we want to get through all these factions in under an hour is the goal. I think the Arbiter is the best. really, I mean, high elves are stacked in every single rarity, but I think that Arbiter is just insane. She has the revival, she has the speed, the turn meter increase, and the increased attack on her A3. She also has the turn meter increase on the A4. You can do this A4 of Arbiter, most of you probably know, without reviving anybody. You can just do it as a turn meter boost if you want to go back-to-back turn meter boosts. And then we also have the attacks all enemies and decreases the duration of enemy buffs by 1 turn. And yeah, Arbiter's just really, really solid. She also has that speed in arena by 30%. Lyssandra's the same way. She's all about speed, all about turn meter. 30% increased speed on all allies for 2 turns, fills the turn meter of all allies by 30%, decreases the turn meter of all enemies by 30%. She's great in the arena. She has a speed in all battles by 24% as well, so she's great as a speed lead for dungeons. She's fantastic S tier for Fire Knight because exhaustion fully depletes the target's turn meter on her A2, excuse me. All right, so next one that I want to, like, underrated champion that I wanted to discuss is Royal Huntsman. Now again, doesn't get a lot of love here. I'm not saying he's the 3rd best, he's just a champion that I like that no one really talks about that often. Okay, so he has an attack in all battles. I don't really like these spirit ally attacks in all battles, so whatever on that. But check out his A3, 5 turn cooldown, but will ignore 100% defense. So attacks 1 enemy, high attack, by the way, 1553, speed pretty high too at 105, and then so that's a great ability, dead aim, deals a lot of damage, and then the A2 attacks all enemies on a 3-turn cooldown, has the big version of decreased defense. So he is a debuffer with a decreased defense, provided you don't have a negative affinity matchup against magic affinity, right? So that's what you're looking for there. If the attack is critical, so you're just gonna build him to a 100% crit rate, and then he'll be good to go. So I really like Royal Huntsman. You have the strong version of decreased defense, 3-turn cooldown, and then the really, really strong single target nuke on top of that. So Sacred Order is stacked, guys. We have 3 of the best champions in the game here. In Martyr, she has a provoke on a 4-turn cooldown on her A3. She has an increased defense and a counterattack on all allies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown on her A2, one of the 3 champions in the game with ally counterattack ability. You have Venus, one of the strongest debuffers in the game, attacks all enemies, has the HP burn on the A3. She has the decreased defense and weaken on a 3-turn on the A2. Her in Dracomorph. There might be another champion too who I'm missing. In a very, very small class of champions that have both of the strong versions on an AoE, on a 3-turn cooldown of weaken and decreased defense. They might be the only 2. Am I forgetting one? Let me know. And then we have Sir Nicholas. Sir Nicholas is great. He's one of the best shield champions in the game. Also places an unkillable continuous heal on all allies 2 turns. This is the shield. Places a shield buff on all allies for 2 turns. Value of the shield is equal to 30% of the damage inflicted, and that's an AoE attack similar to Miscreated Monster on a 3-turn cooldown. And then the champion that I want to discuss here, guys, is, believe it or not, you guys know Rashad the Tower has the block damage, but it's actually Errol. So Errol is a champion that I've not built out, but I think it bears mentioning here that he deals a ton of damage. All legendary champions in the game, in terms of single target hitters, right? Errol has the 4th highest damage potential on his A3 out of all legendaries in the game. Not a lot of people realize that, and it's on a 3-turn cooldown when booked. So steals all buffs from a target enemy, then attacks the target. Has an extra 30% chance of inflicting a critical hit. So what this can do here is you can build him out with a lot of crit damage, not a lot of crit rate, or 70% crit rate, I should say. And then on 3-turn, this is dealing a 5.48 multiplier on the negation ability. Very high multiplier on that. And then on top of that, on his A2, attacks 1 enemy 3 times, has an extra 30% chance of inflicting critical hit, and each hit has a 50% chance to totally ignore defense. Again, really solid on a 3-turn cooldown. So Errol is a champion that I think a lot of people are kind of lukewarm on. You know, I don't think he's S tier, but I think that it deserves mentioning. He can put out a ton of damage as a single target hitter in the game. Now, moving on to Barbarians, there's not a lot of Barbarian champions, a legendary, but they have all really good champions, with all apologies to Elder Skarg. So Alton's really great. He has the decreased attack on his A1 and the defense in all battles by 33%, so great for clan boss. We have, I think the best is actually Valkyrie. Valkyrie is just a game changer with this ability. Not only does she have the AoE counterattack, but she also has a shield on all allies for 3 turns, equal or proportional to this champion's defense, and she also has the highest defense in the game at 1597, also a high speed at 104. This stand firm ability is just insane. Absolute game changer when it comes to dungeon progression or, of course, clan boss. And then the one that I wanted to mention, actually, you guys know how much I love Scylla the Drakes. I have Turvold, he's a great champion, don't get me wrong, but Scylla the Drakes is a free-to-play game changer. When you play the game for 180 days, granted, it takes a while to get her, you can get her from your daily logins, and having that AoE stun, especially if you put her in a stun set, on a 3-turn cooldown is going to help a lot of players when it comes to crowd control. I might even use her in one of my main teams because you can actually pair her with a lot of fragile champions and know that she'll be there to revive them if they fall and throw an ally protect on them. So I like the fact that she has a heal passive, she has the increased speed on one random ally for 2 turns as a passive, she has the revival, and then she has the AoE stun on a 2-time hitter. Really, really solid champion. She is one of my favorite champions added to the game in recent memory in Scylla of the Drakes. So moving on to the next row here, Ogre and Tribe. We got some good choices here too. You guys, in case you caught my my strongest AoE nukers in the game, War Mother, I believe, came in at number 7 with 2 strong AoE attacks on the A2 and the A3. War Mother, just known as kind of a bomb placer, but a lot of people don't realize she also has very, very high multipliers. Spoiler alert, in case you missed that video, Biggin was actually the #1 AoE nuker in the game in terms of damage potential, total damage potential against 5 targets. He has 3 AoE attacks. He has the decreased speed, decreased turn meter, the stun, decreased accuracy, and again, the multi-hitter on the A1 if the first attack is critical. So Biggin, I do think, is the best Ogre and Tribe champion, with all apologies to, I guess, Gurgo the Augur is probably tied, right? I think it's your choice, depending on if you need nukes or you need crowd control. Gurgo the Augur, excuse me, is a champion that I do not have. I wish I did, because his A2 is in, or excuse me, his A3, excuse me, his A2 is incredible. Sorry, guys. Removes 1 random buff from each enemy. Has an 80% chance of placing a freeze debuff on all enemies for 1 turn, and then grants an extra turn. So we're talking arena when we're talking Gurgo, right? He opens up with a Bone Chiller, and then he goes right into Avalanche, right? Because you grant an extra turn. So you could be freezing all the enemies, going into Avalanche, attacks 1 enemy, places an extra hit if the target has freeze, which it does, right? And this deals a lot of damage on Avalanche. And then his passive too is a 50% chance of placing a freeze debuff on the attacker for 1 turn if this champion loses more than 20% of their max HP in 1 attack. So he's all about the freeze, and even his A1 here has an extra hit if the target is under freeze. So really good Ogre and Tribe champions in the legendary category. I'm even a big fan of Shamrock in terms of underrated, now with his new Lucky Charms ability. Look at all these buffs that he has on a 3-turn cooldown. I don't think he's S tier or even A tier legendary, maybe a B or C, but I do think that he can be definitely usable if you pull him, depending on what you need. Continuous heal, revive on death, increased speed, increased defense, increased crit rate, all in the same ability. Pretty insane stuff, right? Let's go ahead and move on to Lizardmen. So another, I mean, there's a lot of good champions here. There's only one faction that I think has really meh legendary champions, and we'll get to that in just a moment here. But I do think that the best champion is a toss-up between Krisk the Ageless and Dracomorph, and those are 2 of the best top 5 champions in the entire game here in Lizardmen. So Krisk is all about the provoke. He also leads off with a shield. He has the provoke, the increased defense on himself, the increased speed on all allies, on 1 skill on a 3-turn cooldown, excuse me, guys, and then has an ally protect on an AoE on the A2, increases the duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn. This guy's just insane. Decreased speed on the AoE on the A1 too, another great addition to his kit. We talked about Dracomorph. He does insane damage on this Seeping Pain. We're talking, you know, if it is a multiple in the right situation, we're talking 300, 500,000 damage to mobs. We're talking, especially on like Ice Golem, when this can chain from one of the Ice Golem's guards to the Ice Golem, we're talking again 300 to 400,000 damage on this A1. Insane. Even against Clan Boss, with the debuffs up, just on a single target hitter, we're talking 200,000 plus damage depending on artifacts. So insane. Has 4 poisons on the A2, 4 strong poisons on the A2, and then the weaken and the decreased defense on the A3. Just an incredible champion. I recently pulled Fushan. Fushan is my honorable mention, or my whatever, unsung hero, whatever the heck you want to call him. On the A2, it's the same, it's very similar, I should say, to Seal of the Drakes. 3-turn cooldown, hits enemies two times. Each hit has a 20% chance of placing a stun. I would put him in a stun set and just watch him go. The difference between him and Seal of the Drakes is he doesn't have the revive or the heal. Instead, he has the decreased defense. If this was an AoE, it would be so much better, right? On a 3-turn cooldown, decreased defense, he would be an S tier champion. It's 4 times at random, so you don't know 100% if you're going to be landing it on all the champs, or if you're going to, and it's a 50% chance, by the way, too, a 75% chance when booked. So Shred ability has potential, definitely adds a unique trait to his kit as compared to Seal of the Drakes. I think in a vacuum, I'd rather go with Sil, but Fushan has that nice force affinity as well, so it's very, very close. He also has speed in all battles by 24%, certainly a better aura than Seal of the Drake. So you guys can decide there. Razin is also a beast, so really Lizardmen are just stacked. They don't have a lot of legendaries, but they're all really stacked. So when we go to Skinwalkers here, again, some really solid choices. Coronar is a really, really good champion. I'm a big fan, though, guys, of actually Hackhorn Smashlord is pretty solid as well. I don't think he's S tier, but he's solid. But I'm a big fan of Brackus the Shifter. I've started using him much, much more. I think maybe 2 or 3 months ago, I put out a video saying that he was one of the 6-star legendaries that I never really used a lot, but now I use him in all my clan boss teams. He doesn't put out as much damage as Turvold does in clan boss for me, but I can't use Turvold because he screws up the speed, because he takes that extra turn and he has that increased speed only on himself. He screws up the speed of my entire team. He's really unusable for me in any speed-tuned team. So Brackus comes in, man, and not only is he doing a ton of sheer damage, but he's also placing the increased attack buff on all allies for 3 turns. So that's really, really helpful. It increases the damage of all my other allies, especially against Clan Boss, which is where I use Brackus the Shifter on my main team. I'm now 2-keying Ultra Nightmare, mainly using Brackus and Draco as my only damage dealers, and we're doing 100 million damage on 2 keys, so not too bad, right? He has the weaken on his A2, a 6-time hitter. 6-time hitter on the A2 with the weaken, very, very good. And Innocent Blood also puts out a lot of damage. We're talking around 100k plus on Clan Boss. So that is Brackus the Shifter. The honorable mention here, or it's not even an honorable mention, again, the unsung hero goes to Norog. Norog is really solid in terms of a support champion. He's immune to stun, freeze, sleep, decreases the damage taken by all allies by 15%. This is on his passive. He has a really beautiful dungeon aura. Increases ally defense in dungeons by 40%. Wow. That is insane. In terms of dungeon progression, you really can't get any better than Norog out there, right? Attacks all enemies, places a block, buffs debuff for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. Not bad. And then has a decreased accuracy on his A1. So again, he's going to have the damage based on defense. He has a high speed at 106. On his passive, he's immune to everything. Decreases the damage taken by all allies by 15%. He's not your typical legendary champion. You're not really wowed by him. But if you're having problems progressing and you pull a Norog, you're going to be A-okay. You're going to be pretty happy, right? And we just did Skinwalkers. Let's move on to Oryx here, guys. So Oryx, well, I think Tila Gormain is one of the worst legendary champions. Not the worst, but she's in the conversation there. Just want to give her a nod at being bad. She needs a buff, I think. She needs a buff. But the 2 best, in my opinion, are Warlord. I've talked so much about Warlord in the past here on the channel, guys. You guys know how much I love the Orcish Rituals ability, right? Orcish Rituals is insane. Not only does it have a 100% chance when booked, of course, to put all the target skills on cooldown, but also has a 50% chance when booked to fully deplete the target's turn meters. What a game changer for the arena. Then has a shield buff equal to 30% of his max HP for 2 turns, and restores all allies HP by 25%. Places a block debuff buff on all allies for 1 turn. Protection of the Gods is another insane ability. 2 insane abilities in 1 kit. Has a resist in all battles by 50 as well. And then the guy that I actually really like is Angar, right? So he has a passive. He's all about provoke. So if we go to his HP and faction crypt, so whatever on the aura, But let's start with the A2 first. Attacks all enemies, 3-turn cooldown, places a provoke debuff on them for 1 turn, places a reflect damage buff on all allies, also places a counterattack buff on him for 2 turns. Wow, that's an infuriating ability. That's the name of the ability. And then his passive is if an enemy with a provoke debuff attacks, it has another 50% chance when booked of placing another provoke on the enemy for 1 turn. Each hit taken will reduce the damage taken by 5% up to 30% in 1 round. Bravado is a very, very cool passive, and essentially you can get your opponent stuck in a provoke loop the entire battle. So really, really solid there. Attacks 1 enemy 2 times, places an extra hit if the enemy has a provoke debuff on, and a damage is based on HP on his A1, actually on both of his active skills. His damage is based on HP, and he has a high HP at 21k, relatively high, so you can build him out with a lot of HP, and he's gonna be just a sturdy, kind of robust tank for you, who's always landing provokes on the enemies. Great CC champion in the game. Moving on to Demonspawn. Demonspawn has a lot of great champions again, right? We have Prince Kaimar, who I think is probably tied for the best champion. He has Seal of Magic, completely resets the cooldown of all ally skills, then fills the turn meter of all allies except this champion by 20%. Also has an AoE buff stripper and a sleep on the A2 on a 3-turn cooldown when booked, and then has a strong poison on an AoE on his A1, has speed in the arena by 30%. A lot of people, myself included in tag team arena, use Prince Kaimar. I think he's on my 2nd team as a speed lead. Duchess is amazing. She's all about veils and revivals and perfect veils and speed in all battles on the 19% chance there. She decreases the damage taken from all allies, from AoE attacks by 25%. 15% from bosses. That's insane as a passive, especially for dungeon progression, for clan boss, wherever. She has a really high rating basically everywhere. And then on her A1, she has a shield equal to 10% of this champion's max HP for 2 turns on this champion, and the ally with the lowest HP. So just a really, really S-tier support champion in Duchess. And then my personal favorite champion that I wish I had is Tyrant Ixlamore. Tyrant Ixlamore is insane as a support and HP burn champion. Great for clan boss, HP based. His damage is based on defense though. So on his A2, Hellfire Torn has an AoE HP burn, okay, for 3 turns. On his A3 has an ally protect on a 3-turn cooldown and a strong version increased defense all allies 2 turns. Again, Infernal Minion's a great support ability with the ally protect and the increased defense, and he has kind of a built-in lifesteal on his A1, heals his champion by 50% of the damage inflicted if the target is under an HP burn debuff. And again, this damage is scaling off of defense. 1343, pretty high defense on his base, scales pretty well in a 103 speed. So Tyrant is a guy who I absolutely love. There's a lot of great other champions like Lord Shazar and Krutraxa as well. These champions are all great. Or I should say all really serviceable. If you pull them, you're excited about it, right? Undead Horde has an embarrassment of riches. I think it's probably the best, or it's right up there, top 3 in terms of factions for legendary champions in the game. I do still think that Siphi is probably the best champion overall in the game, just in terms of overall support and utility. She has resist in all battles by 80, high resist in all battles. She has a passive that does all kinds of stuff, and especially removes all debuffs from Rotos, the Lost Groom, at the start of their turn. I'm not going to get into all of this, but it's basically a passive heal, and also has a chance of removing Freeze and Fear. Revival, with a full turn meter on a 4-turn cooldown and Love Beyond Death ability. And then this Whirlwind Romance is just insane. Fills the turn meter by 15%, block debuffs, increase defense, increase speed on all allies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. Wow. Is Whirlwind Romance the best ability in the game? Well, it might be tied with maybe Martyr, Valkyrie, Mashaled, and Siphi, in my opinion. Unless I could very well be forgetting some. You can make the argument that, yeah, there's a lot of just insane abilities in this game. But Tornado, Mashaled might be tied with Siphi as the best champion, or they're really, really close, because I think that Mashaled went from one of the worst to one of the best champions in the game, and really it's all because of Tornado. It's an extra turn ability on 3-turn cooldown. After we use this ability, we get another turn. Insane. Increased speed, Increased crit damage buff on all allies for 2 turns. 30% increased crit damage is just insane. True Fear and Leech on all enemies for 2 turns. What? Yeah, man, every time I read this ability, I'm like, True Fear is so annoying, the worst ability. Leech is solid. Increased speed and increased crit damage, 2 of the strongest buffs in the game, all on one ability, and after you use this OP ability on a 3-turn cooldown, you get another turn. Okay. Alright, Mashaled, I see you. You guys know about Rotos, you know about Bad L, you know about, I mean, there's just, Harvest Jack is pretty good with the provokes, and then you have, I actually wanted to talk about a champion that we don't talk about a lot, and I have him, and it's Nethril. I think that you guys know Nethrill's really good. People think about Nethril and they think about his poisons, but I just wanted to shed a little bit of light on how good Nethril is. Nethrill's really an S-tier champion when it comes to crowd control in this game. He has Bat Swarm, attacks all enemies, decreases the turn meter by 75%. Wow, that's really solid, man. On a 4-turn cooldown, Bat Swarm is a great arena ability and just a CC ability for dungeons. And then on his A2, on a 4-turn cooldown, attacks all enemies, has a 75% chance of placing a stun, and then places a decreased speed debuff for 2 turns if the target does not get under that stun. You want to build your Nethril with, obviously, the downside to Nethril is his speed, 94, pretty low. So you want to build him up to be much faster. It's going to take a lot of work, but you want to build him up to have a little bit higher defense, but mostly it's really all about accuracy on Nethril. You're going to need the accuracy for the stun, need the accuracy for the poison, need the accuracy for the turn meter on the Bat Swarm. I'm a big fan of Nethril for his CC potential as much as his poisons. So Dark Elf. Dark Elves has a lot of really solid champions, but they can't touch, in my opinion, the overall champion power of Undead Horde. Nobody can, right? But my favorite, I would say, it's very close between a lot of these champions. Lanicus is really solid because of her banner of the excuse me, not her banner, the Champions of Fate ability on her A2, 4-turn cooldown, teams up, and then fills the turn meter of all allies after that, increases the duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn after they all use their default skill. Really good arena champion, really good champion overall. We have Vizier, who's great for clan boss, obviously. We have Ava, who's great for campaign farming, and then Ray is actually the second biggest behind Biggin AoE nuker, second best AoE nuker in terms of overall damage potential in the game, and that with I'm not saying 1343 attack is low, but it's not as high as the 1600s that we see out there on some other champions, but she's insane because she has the speed in dungeons by 33%, and she has the freeze, the 70% chance of placing a freeze debuff for 1 turn, and removes all the buffs on the same ability. Banish is an insane ability, granted 6-turn cooldown, but rightfully so. Has the freeze, has the buff removal, and the really strong attack on it as well. Another AoE on the A2. Guess what? Another AoE on the A1. Ray is my favorite, I think, and my most wanted of the Dark Elves. Foley right now is extremely meta, but the champion that I wanted to talk about here, and Xavier is really good too, is Ghostborn. What makes Ghostborn so unique is that, granted on a 4-turn cooldown, but it's the big version of decreased defense and increased attack on the same ability, and the decreased defense cannot be resisted. So you have a unique position of, no matter the affinity, no matter anything, you're always going to be landing the decreased defense with Ghostborn. So a lot of people use him in kind of high-end arena, platinum arena, setting up their team because you cannot resist it. You don't have to build him with any accuracy. Granted, you need accuracy for the heal reduction on the A2. It's an AoE, but still, meh. It's really, I would advise not building him with not worrying about accuracy. Instead, put an attack banner on him or a defense banner, whatever you need, but have him kind of built out as a secondary nuker on your team. Ghostborn does have some utility in that regard. Now let's go ahead and move on to the next one, which is Knight Revenant. Knight Revenant, I do think, is the worst for legendary champions. I said we'd get to it. Hegemon is the diamond in the rough here in Knight Revenant. You guys know Hegemon, he always goes first. And then he has a 50-50 shot at placing block cooldown skills debuff for 2 turns on all your enemies on crippling cold. The fact that he always goes first regardless of his speed is the first half of what makes him so good and annoying in the arena. And then the second half is, of course, totally locking out half, if not more, of the opponent's team, depending on your luck there. So that's Hegemon. You guys already know about him. Whirling Frost King is not awful, but he's not great, especially for a Void. When they add free, like this is part of the Battle Pass, when they add free Void legendary champions in the game, or semi-free champions, easily accessible, and they're not really good, it waters down the champion pool as well. So you have to think about it both ways, right? He's not a bad champion, has a good strength and increased defense, all allies for 2 turns on a 4-turn cooldown, but still, guys, has increased damage as well. But at the end of the day, I do think that Whirling Frost King, although it's good that he's free to play accessible, kind of, I say kind of, because he was like the ultimate goal if you won the battle pass, right? Is good, but I don't like when they bring in new Void legendaries, the hardest champions to get in the game, and they don't make them really good, right? I'd like to see like maybe even a little buff to Whirlim. I don't know. Solus is the other champion that I wanted to mention here, guys. Solus is interesting because he has a 3-time at random on his A2. Each hit has a 100% chance when booked to remove a buff and then place a provoke debuff for 1 turn if a buff is removed. And on his A3, attacks all enemies, increases the duration of all debuffs on the target by 1 turn, so a debuff extender there on the A3 on a 4-turn cooldown, and then places a provoke debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. Then places a shield buff on him for 2 turns, equal to 30% of the damage inflicted on an AoE attack, not bad, and then damage increases by 10% for each debuff on the target. So Solus is kind of a niche champion, but I like that he's landing provokes on his A2 and his A3, and then he's shielding himself. He's giving himself a lot of shield value there to keep him alive after he lands all these provokes. Downside is 87 speed is very criminally low for a Void legendary, or a legendary champion at that. Very, very, very low speed. So that's kind of all I have to mention from Knight Revenant. Let's move on to the last faction, guys, and I want to talk about my ladies here. You guys know about Mountain King, you know about Tormund. They're both great champions, don't get me wrong. All of the legendaries are great in dwarves. There's only 4 of them, but they're all great. They could actually be an OP arena team, an all-dwarf arena team, and it would be really, really, really strong if you could go first, right? So my favorite, my strongest right now is Trunda. She is insane. She's top 5 in terms of overall damage potential, and her A2 is actually the hardest hitting ability in the game on an AoE. Granted, it's 60% of the damage inflicted to the first enemy, but this has a 6-time multiplier on this Cloak of Ages attack. That is one of the strongest attack on this first hit there, considering it is kind of a quasi AoE attack. Granted, again, 60% of the damage inflicted on the second hit. The A3 also hits very hard on Forge Rhythm, attacks all enemies, has a 70 chance of placing a stun, and then places an HP burn debuff for 2 turns on enemies under stun, extra hit on enemies not under stun debuffs. Because of that extra hit on the A2 and the A3, a lot of people use her with low accuracy in the arena, myself included. That way she can kill Rotos on either ability. And then she has a stun as well on her A1 on the Golden Mallet. Molly Tankard I actually use on my main arena team as well. I use Molly and I use Trunda on the same team with Arbiter and with Madame Ceres. Her A2 is amazing, right? Barbral. On her A3, really quickly though, it has a revival. She revives an ally with 50% HP and fills a turn meter by 50%. But places a provoke debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. Also has a 50% chance of placing a provoke debuff for 2 turns instead. That's great for the arena. And then places a 30% reflect damage buff on her for 2 turns as well. So what Barbral, this ability, is a great arena opening move. Totally takes your entire opponents out of the equation for 1 or 2 turns while you get a chance to set up your team, in my case, landing those debuffs from Madame Ceres and then nuking them all down with my Trunda. That's how the team works, and it's all thanks to Molly Tankard kind of setting up the team. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed talking about like out the S tier legendary champions, but also touching on some champions that don't often get a lot of love, a lot of conversation around them. Let me know what champion that you love that I missed in the comments below, guys, and if you like the content here, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. Join me on my Raid Shadow Legends journey. How official sounding was that? Guys, thank you so much for watching, and as always, take care, guys.